The Crunchyroll Anime Awards are rigged, just not in the way you think it is. I've been seeing a lot of weird claims being thrown at the wall here when it comes to the Crunchyroll Anime Awards and it being like, oh, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, it's rigged. Just like, objectively speaking, just looking at the way it's formatted, it's pretty obvious how. But with this latest, not with the latest, but one of Chibi Review's videos shows a claim here that I do not really agree with. I mean, I think the video itself is good. I mean, no shade to him. I just don't really agree with the claim that he makes here. So I'm going to do a react to Andy and react to this video, and y'all can watch with me. Yeah, here we go. I have a few notes down here and I have a few tabs prepped, but you know, I've already watched this, but it's just gonna be me giving my raw takes on this whole situation here.
The Crunchyroll Anime Awards is infamous for being biased, bad, and genuinely clowned upon by the anime community, and in the year...
That's true, 100%. I mean, like, I clown on it every single freaking year, whether it's a meme or a live stream of me making my votes and making fun of the nominations. I mean, I think the nominations are a bit rigged in some other ways, but in general, yeah, it is definitely clowned upon for sure.
For 2025, all of what I just said is still happening. However, I think that one thing that needs to be tacked onto that list is corpo shilling, and there is no better way to really tell.
This is the big claim that he makes. Corpo shilling. Bro is really pulling out a cyberpunk lingo here. All right, let's see what you got here.
Dive into this topic than to really just discuss soul leveling here. And I want to make a brief disclaimer before I go any further. I genuinely like soul leveling. I like season 1.
Okay. Solo leveling, I hate solo leveling with a burning passion. Season 1 was trash. Season 2 was good. Season 1 was complete trash. There was one episode in particular of solo leveling that was absolute filler, complete dog shit. It was tacked on top of the manhwa. It was not in the manhwa. It was an anime original, and the one time it decides to go anime original, it was trash. And I disliked it. I disliked the solo leveling OPs. I like the action. I think the main character is bland as hell. I think all the side characters are bland as hell. I do hate solo leveling. Just, I enjoy the slop aspects of it. And it is very sloppy. And it is very enjoyable as slop.
I like season 2, and if you go back and look at my reviews of the series, I love it. It was fun to watch. It was fun to talk about. It was like junk food. It was fun.
Yep, slop.
However, would I deem it anime of the year? Would I deem it with all these different awards? Best new series, best action, best main character, best VA, best ending song, best OST? No.
Okay. So here we go. Best new series, I do not agree with that. Best action, I think I could say that that's pretty justifiable. Best main character, hell no. Best VA, you know what? Kind of a base take here, but I honestly think Alex Lee actually did pretty good with the VA here. This was best English VA, and I could definitely say it's justifiable. It's a justifiable pick, honestly. He goes ham with those shots, bro. I'm sorry.
I would not. There's a few categories I might say.
Best ending song, honestly, I'm fine with that. Best OST, I'm also kind of fine with that, even though I disagree. I think Freeren's OST is better, but whatever. I think Donadon's OST is also better, but you know, it's not too contentious. Everyone's talking about anime of the year. That's the big one. I mean, people were concerned about best main character before, but anime of the year is the big one. That's the one anime award that everyone looks back on. Everyone reflects on that year by looking at the anime of the year.
Might be deemed okay for, but there is something that does need to be mentioned, and that is the fact that the soul leveling in question that everybody was voting on for these awards was not season 2. It was season 1. These awards...
Yeah, for sure. It's just like how JJK Season 2, when that won Anime of the Year, that was really for part 1 of JJK Season 2. Part 2 of JJK Season 2 didn't even finish at the time of the voting. It was crazy. And for some reason, they used posters for the for the freaking, what was it, part 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. They used posters for part 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 in its voting situation for anime of the year, but in other categories it used part 1's poster. It was so weird and so confusing, even though like part 2 didn't even finish at the time that the nominations were announced. It was crazy. I didn't understand it, but yeah.
Thing from 2024, aka stuff that was running in the fall season of 2023 to the end of 2024, or technically up until the fall season of 2024.
Yeah, this show, there were a lot of more seasons that qualified for these awards just so that they could get the whole cycle going from winter of the beginning of the year to the fall, to the end of fall of that year. I think that's a good choice overall. They had to cover like 4 different seasons or 5 different seasons with this awards show so that they could fix the cycle of just like being cut off on fall. It was weird because you had like certain situations where like you didn't vote for Chainsaw Man until way later, way past that, and all the recency bias that it would have had is now gone and replaced with whatever the hell.
So, Soul Leveling Season 2 was never a factor in these votings. Like, for instance, when Crunchyroll put Soul Leveling on this list, it wasn't Season 2. It was Season 1 that they were factoring
it was
in.
Season 1
And
for sure.
like
that's why they're using Season 1's poster.
Awards, the fans, they voted because of Season 2 and not because of Season 1. Especially
I agree with this take 100%. Season 2 is probably one of the most popular seasons of anime to be aired. Honestly, I think season 2 is way more successful than season 1, and just for that reason it has raised the show's popularity immensely, and I think that contributed a lot to the fan vote of this show. I think it heavily swayed the fan vote a lot, and usually fan votes are more one-sided, like insanely one-sided. So yeah,
started happening when you could start voting for them. You were able to start voting when everybody was thinking about Soul Leveling
in the middle of winter, in the middle of the season it was airing.
It was, the talk of the town, so to speak. So when you factor all of that in, it's very clear just the overall bias, the recency bias on display, and why Soul Leveling took home so many awards. However, I would be kind of admitting something if I didn't mention this, and that is the fact that Crunchyroll went on record a few years back to say when it comes to the voting process for all the stuff that is in the awards ceremony, 70% of the vote is from the judge.
Yep, it is. So this was cleared up in 2022. This wasn't this hasn't been like solidified since then, so goes to show it probably hasn't changed since they haven't made an announcement or clarification on this since 2022. So it's probably still 70-30. And I'll show you later just how big 30% fan voting is and how much that could weigh in on a voting. It may not seem like that drastic upon first look, but trust me guys, it's bad.
Judges, and 30% is from the fans. However, there was some information that came out in the last day that there was the highest voter turnout for the Crunchyroll.
51 million votes. Do you think all of those people think like us, are isekai fans, are like maybe not isekai fans, but are huge fans of Frieren after a year of it not having any coverage or no new episodes have aired for a year? Do you really think that 50 million people, 51 million people are all going to vote Frieren, or a majority of them are all going to vote for Frieren, or Dungeon Meshi, or Dandadan? Dandadan maybe, but that wasn't nearly as popular as Solo Leveling, with season 2 airing especially.
Awards that they've ever
Here
seen.
comes the wave, boys.
Votes. That's ridiculous. It legitimately is. However, I still want to point out the number association, that the judges make up 70% of the vote, while the actual fans make up 30%. Now, the fans might be able to tip the tides a little bit, but overall, it's mainly
a little bit. A little bit. Let me finish this sentence.
Decide who wins or not.
No, it's not. Here we go. Here we go with this fucking calculation. It's not ultimately the critics that decide. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go based on like we're going to go based on percentages here. Okay, we're going to go based on percentages. Okay, here we go. So Don, let's say the critic vote for that. What's a reasonable critic vote? Let's say 20% voted for Don. I think that's reasonable. Let's say another 20% voted for Delicious in Dungeon. Sure. Let's say 30% voted Freerun. So what do we have now? 70%. Let's say 0% voted for Kaiju number 8, because honestly, I don't know why the hell that's in here. Apothecary Diaries, I think a solid... I'd say 20% probably voted for that, honestly. I could see it. I could see it being very popular with critics. And then let's say 10%. Let's give it some credit. Let's say 10% voted here, right? So you could see here, Freerun is way more. 3 times the amount of critics in this situation voted for Freerun, right? And let's go here. So usually fan votes, let's face it, guys, usually fan votes are extremely one-sided. So when I show you my estimations, this isn't some bold claim that like is unheard of and could never happen. Usually, when you get casuals coming in here, I'm not going to degrade them by any means, but I'm saying casuals make a majority of these votes. And they all think the same, with the same recency bias, with the same like perception of reality. We see this. We see this with every single public fan vote ever. It's a landslide usually. So let me show you just how much a fan vote can sway this. Don, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, 75%. Solo Leveling wins with this. It is usually this one-sided. It's usually this one-sided with Solo Leveling or one big anime with a bunch of popularity at that moment, at that time, wins by a landslide. That's usually how most fan votes happen. And we see that even though the critics mostly voted and agreed upon Freerun, because it's a split decision, because you can argue for multiple different anime winning this award, guess what? That indecisiveness makes one show voted immensely by the fans win. It's not just like slightly swayed by the fan vote. If it's indecisive, if it's slightly contentious between critics, between 3 or more shows, it is 100% going to be taken over by whoever the fans vote. 100%. Not even close. Because you can argue, because this was a very, very, very competitive year for anime in this category. Like Kaiju number 8, not so much. Solo Leveling, not so much. But the rest of them, you could argue for them being winners. So when I see Chibi make the assumption,
tides a little bit, while the actual fans make up 30%. Now, the fans might be able to tip the tides a little bit, but overall, it's mainly the judges that decide who wins or not. And
no, it's not. Because even though you have a majority winner, it doesn't matter. So, let me continue with this.
I want to point out something, that this entire award ceremony is incredibly biased and corpo shilling, and let's explain. For one, Solo Leveling as a series, I do think deserves some praises. I think that it was an incredible feat for what it was, even season 1.
He's calming the tides a little bit here. He doesn't want to piss off the solo leveling fans, and honestly, that's fine. You know, like whatever. Again, no matter how heated I get here, no shade to Chibi. Like I just very disagree with him heavily. I just very disagree with him. And I'm being overly animated for the sake of the video, but you know, whatever.
However, I do think that in general, the reason why it is here is a mix of a variety of things, and that is the fact that, for one, Crunchyroll is a co-producer of the project. For those that don't know, Crunchyroll literally...
Yeah, this is true, 100%. This is true, 100%. It's a show based off of a Korean property. Like, yeah.
Worked with Aniplex to make Solo Leveling. They were heavily involved in the creation of it. And if you did not know, Aniplex and Crunchyroll are both owned by Sony. So you factor in both companies owned by one solid company, and
yes,
gain a monopoly in the anime industry. It's like they're patting themselves on the back for a job well done.
Okay. If this was the case, then a Crunchyroll product would win every single award. Every single time. Or at least win every single Anime of the Year award. We see this is not the case here, with Cyberpunk Edge Runners winning in 2023. A Netflix property. A Netflix property. You can only see this on Netflix. Let's just go to this year's Anime Awards and its winners. Let's just go here. Look Back. A film that you can only see on Amazon right now. You can't see this on Crunchyroll. Let's go further down. Blue Box. A show in the US where you can only see on Netflix. There are many cases here where a Crunchyroll property does not win. It's at least not nominated. Like, you'd at least have a if it was corpo shilling, if it was like patting themselves on the back, you'd have Solo Leveling being nominated for basically a majority of almost everything here. But guess what? It didn't even get nominated for best opening, I don't think. Let me look. Best opening sequence. Oh wait, it did, and it lost. Wow. It's like most critics believe that this specific opening should win. A majority of them voted for this one. And it didn't matter how many times the fans voted for their Solo Leveling bias. It wouldn't matter. Because Dan Da Dan was overly voted by a majority of critics. Because I could sway this vote. I could sway this vote very easily. Like, let's not change the fan vote at all here. But let's say that, like, 50% of the vote was for Freerun. And let's say, let's keep this at 10% maybe. And then let's, like, delete Apothecary Diaries. You'd have Freerun win. But when it's not a split decision, you have whoever the critics vote win. When it's not overly competitive between critics, the majority wins. But with how sheep-like these fans vote, and they often do, there's going to be a heavy sway to whoever the fans vote for. Just making this even 0% and having this be 60%, it contributes to a 22% vote if 75% of fans voted for Solo Leveling. I honestly think it's more than this. I think it's probably 95% or maybe 90%. I honestly think it's way more than this. But just 75% of the fan vote can contribute to 22% of the overall weighted vote. That's crazy. That's insane.
So in terms of corpo stuff, it makes a lot of sense.
I think it's overly conspiratorial to accuse Crunchyroll of being of rigging their own event. I don't think so. Maybe the nominations they rigged a bit. Maybe the nominations, because honestly, I have no clue how in the world did Kaiju number 8 even make it here. I honestly have no clue how that happened. But like, you know, plausible deniability. I think it maybe the critics just haven't seen that many anime and only watch the shonen shows. I can agree with that. Maybe a majority of them like have only seen the big projects, maybe.
Would want Solo Leveling to win in the end, especially with just how successful it has actually been on their platform. Now, the numbers are there. It makes sense in terms of popularity why Solo Leveling won. But I think one big factor into this is definitely people that have Crunchyroll's best intentions in mind. And let's explain. So if we go by the information we already know when it comes to the voting, for instance, 70% of the judge vote matters more, we can assume that all the judges are definitely paid by Crunchyroll to some degree, because this award ceremony...
Why would Cyberpunk win Anime of the Year if it was all rigged from the get-go? Why? Why would Blue Box win Best Romance if it was rigged from the get-go? Why would Look Back win if it was rigged from the get-go? From Crunchyroll, by Sony. It's not. That's the answer. It's not. It's just because of a stupid format.
Ceremony is hosted by Crunchyroll, which means that the judges that are there are probably being paid for their time by Crunchyroll, and so they're effectively more or less definitely going to vote in Crunchyroll's best interest. They would never vote for a series that theoretically would not be good for their brand, or a series that wouldn't benefit them more than the other. And this makes me want to bring attention to this. I talked about this in the past, but Crunchyroll, they hindered and sabotaged Don.
Yeah, this is definitely plausible for sure. I could definitely see this happening. Sabotaging the marketing just so that, like, because the rights got distributed among multiple different streaming platforms. Like, I could see that happening. I don't know why you'd rig a anime award show. That's crazy.
Don's marketing, because they didn't win the licensing war, and they had to share the licensing with people like Netflix, and they couldn't have the sole licensing rights to it. And what's shocking is a lot of people were completely unaware that Crunchyroll actually had Don on their site, and a lot of people watch on Netflix, and the reason for that is because Crunchyroll straight up sabotaged the marketing, because they didn't get the sole rights. And so when you look at the award ceremony and just like how certain series were snubbed, it all starts to make a lot of sense, especially when you not just look at Dawn to Dawn, but you also look at Bleach. Bleach is, it's a Hulu exclusive. It's like on Disney and stuff. And so it's not a Crunchyroll series.
Yeah, I don't think anyone watches Bleach. I'm sorry, I don't think many people do watch Bleach. I don't think many critics, even with the critic vote, watched Bleach. Why? Because it's on Disney Plus. Why did Ninja Kamui win? I think it might be because it's on Netflix, right? Like, I'm not too sure about this, so let me double check here. Okay, it's not on Netflix, it's on HBO Max. Okay, to be fair, it was more popular. I did hear about this show more than all the rest of these. So, again, fan vote can heavily sway whatever the show is, whatever split decision the critics are on. So, and also probably critics haven't watched the rest of those. I think Chibi mentions later how Ninja Kamui and how the critics might not watch every single show that's on here. I think that is a valid take. I think that is very, pretty obvious based on the nominations here. So,
also showcases this. Best Original Anime shows that the judges on the panel do not watch a lot of anime. And let's explain. I'm about
pre-watch. Yeah, I know. Pre-watch.
That is an anime watcher. An anime content creator that actually did watch Ninja Kamui knows how bad it is. The first and second episode, pretty good. Yeah, I would say pretty freaking good. However, if you're actually someone that continued watching it, you will know just how astronomically bad it actually is. I'm going to bring up the clip. This is literally from episode 13 of Ninja Kamui, and what was a solid 2D action series turned into basically CGI robots with very bland CGI backgrounds. It legit just looks freaking ugly, and I don't know how you can do robots fighting bad. Like, it's super easy, it can be easily, like, cool for people, but they did it bad. Ninja Kamui became absolutely ugly, grotesque, and just not good in story-wise. Anything that was garnering people's interest in the early episodes was thrown out the window.
Girls Band Cry is way better. I haven't seen all of the show, but I could tell just from watching, like, about half the show, it's definitely better, for sure, 100%.
Continued onward. And the fact that it won the best original anime and beat Girls Band Cry, Buchigiri, and Jellyfish is absolutely astounding to me. And I think this legitimately just shows the categories that aren't, let's say,
critics are split.
Don't matter necessarily to Crunchyroll's brand.
Some didn't watch the shows.
Don't really care to probably watch.
Some watch maybe one of these shows.
What was the most
vote for that,
or the most popular in that bracket. And in this case,
and then fans vote for the popular one.
All these series, Ninja Kamui would be the most noticeable because everybody thinks at least heard about that over anything else on this list. However, anyone that has watched a lot of anime would know that it definitely is probably one of the worst there on this bracket. So it really shows that how biased these awards are, and just how, once again, it's very corpo. I legitimately am just upset to see this, because it really showcases just how much the anime community has changed in the last 5 to 6 years, not even counting over a decade, but it explains why there's so many...
It has changed a lot in these past few years. It is now casual infested, which is fine. Just when you do shows like this, you better make sure that the fan vote isn't too weighted so that you can actually promote shows that most people have not recognized or a majority of casuals have not recognized, so that you could show off to these casuals, hey, this show, Frieren or Delicious in Dungeon or Dandadan, this show won the Anime of the Year. Maybe you should watch it on our streaming platform. Maybe. I don't know why you'd rig the Anime of the Year award when you could promote anime to be watched, new anime to be watched by people who just glance at this award and are like, oh, this show's good. Let me watch this.
Problems, why there's so many issues that arise now, why people have so many issues with certain things in fiction and stuff, because the vast majority of anime watchers now only watch the things that are deemed mainstream and safe by the widespread community. And so this is why there is a lot of pushback.
Mainstream and safe. Frieren's plenty mainstream and safe. Is Dandadan mainstream and safe? Maybe not Dandadan. Delicious and Dungeon's mainstream and safe for sure. I'm trying to think here. I think mainstream and safe, like, I don't think you make a good argument here for Solo Leveling being mainstream and safe over the other ones. Mainstream, yes, but safe? Safe? I don't know about that. Whatever. It's just a word being thrown around. I'm pretty sure he doesn't mean it 100%.
In the anime community in the last few years is because there's a lot more people exposed to anime, but they're the same individuals that used to bully people for watching Dragon Ball or other anime. It's just now they will only watch things that are deemed society acceptable. For instance, things that are mainstream now, like Soul Leveling or Demon Slayer, they'll watch that stuff. But anything that ventures outside that norm, they will bully you and call you weird, etc. It just explains why the anime community has deteriorated to...
Yeah, that's probably okay. I see now what he's talking about. Safe? I could see what he's saying. But I feel like Frieren broke that norm. I feel like Frieren broke that barrier and made a niche show widely acceptable among the mass populace. The problem is with a lot of anime, it is very horny and weird. Let's be honest. It is very weird. You look at ReZero, for example, and you see like people in maid outfits and shit, and it's just, oh, what the hell is this? So to a normie, it's like, what are you watching? You're just being extremely weird. And people who actually watch the show is like, oh, I watch it for a story, I watch it for Subaru, I watch it for the main cast and all that stuff. Like I watch it for the music, animation, whatever. They don't understand that. Most people don't want understand that. Most people just see face value, and it's like, oh shit, this is weird.
Such a degree.
I feel like we'll overcome this trend eventually.
But anyways, one thing I will say is that overall, these awards is just outright, it's corpo. It's just turned into nothing but corpo shilling.
No, it's not. Why would Oshinoko be nominated in the first place? You could show off a bunch of other shows being nominated for best animation or best continuing series. Sorry, I was thinking we were looking at best animation here. I wasn't really looking. We could have a bunch of different shows here for best continuing series. We choose Oshinoko to be nominated. What do you think this is? Is it 100% Crunchyroll rigged? Is it 99% Crunchyroll rigged? Is just Anime of the Year rigged? Or are you saying that this category right here, just the winner, is rigged? Because I can tell you right now, it was probably a split decision between a lot of these. Probably between One Piece, Oshinoko, maybe not Demon Slayer, maybe Bleach for critics, maybe My Hero. I could see it being split a bunch of different ways. But I can tell you one thing. Fans will vote for one show, one series that they recognize a lot. It used to be One Piece. It's Demon Slayer now.
To the Ninja Comedy stuff with best original anime, to best continuing anime, just basically showcasing a complete snubbing of like Bleach that's on different platforms, to just like overall.
No. It's not just because of people on different platforms. People are voting on Crunchyroll. It's likely that the people who vote on Crunchyroll have a Crunchyroll subscription, and like it is a jump to say that they also have Disney Plus to watch Bleach. No, it is the fan vote that heavily sways this. Having a split 30-70 split means that the fans can contribute at most a 30% weight to one specific nominee. Like it's very, very obvious. That is very heavily swayed by the fan vote. It is not corpo shield. It is not freaking like rigged by the company. That's a jump, and that's conspiratorial, and that's likely not the case because you can easily explain this based on fan vote. I feel like we've come to a situation here where we're just blaming big company bad, and they are the reason for a lot of our anger. No, it's us. We're stupid. We're dumb. That's why.
Judges don't actually watch a lot of these series, and they probably only watch an episode at minimum. It's like there's no quality control. There is literally nothing here that really showcases actual passion for the anime community. It just shows like what was something that will get us more numbers and more recognition, and that is why we have these types.
You're just glancing over Look Back. I'm pretty sure every other film is on Crunchyroll. Why would they have Look Back win? One of the top sections of the show.
I'm not necessarily shocked that Soul Leveling won. I'm just more or less shocked that it was just season 1 that got its victory, which means that when the next awards comes around for next year, Soul Leveling season 2 is going to sweep.
It's not. You know why? Here we go. Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 won last year, right? And this did not account for part 2. It did not. It accounted for part 1. So this was cut off for so anything that aired in the fall of 2023 and beyond does not count for this. Let me check to see when Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 part 2 aired. This was a 23 episode series, and when did it start? Because remember, there was a break here. That it didn't really finish until December 28th, 2023. Gosh damn it, this doesn't help my case. I know that most of these episodes were aired in the fall. It's 23 episodes. There was a break after the first arc. There was a break that made it lead into fall, and the majority of the episodes were aired in fall or maybe slightly before. This anime awards show was accounting for part 1 and part 1 only, and yet it wasn't nominated. It wasn't nominated at all in this year's awards. I don't think that Solo Leveling Season 2 is going to be nominated for anything next year. I don't. I think that they've done a good job with not repeating shows constantly. I think they do a good job when there's a small break between the Anime Award nomination qualifying period and a season 2 or whatever being released immediately before or immediately after it. It just they made good decisions so far in deciding to include it or not include it. They've done a good job at that. I don't think that season 2 will be aired or will be shown off in season 2 or in next year's Anime Awards. And even if it does, the recency bias is not going to have the fans heavily sway towards one side. Because even if we go here, I think the recency bias is a big part of why this probably got so many votes. We can't see it for sure until they release it, but I'm just gonna say if it was split like this, Freerun wins in a landslide. Sorry, let me make it more accurate here. It's probably like this, and it's probably something. Let's even say let's even say this for just reasoning purposes. Let's say the critics heavily voted towards solo leveling. The fan votes heavily sway this whole situation. So you see that Freerun won overall won in this situation. If recency bias is no longer a thing, it will heavily sway the fan vote significantly. So if season 2 is nominated for anything next year, will it win everything like Chibi says? Probably not. Probably not. It'll probably be replaced by another show that has recency bias, or if season 2's airing at the time of voting of one show, that's going to heavily sway the fan vote. That's how it is.
It will. I mean, you got to factor in that a lot of people legitimately voted for Solo Leveling probably in this awards, the judges and the fans.
Fans.
Of season 2. And
fans.
So when they're able to vote for it again in the next year, they're going to vote for season 2. The only way it will, in any shape or form, actually be defeated is if there is something even more mainstream that comes out that blows everybody's.
I have a proposition. One Punch Man. One Punch Man will probably be more popular than Solo Leveling Season 2 at the time of the voting for next year's awards. Probably. If it airs in the fall, like they say. Or summer. I forgot when. But it'll probably be more popular. Will it have as much, it'll probably have more recency bias, and therefore more popular. I can see it happening for sure, 100%. Also, maybe a new Demon Slayer show will come out. What shows would potentially overtake this? One Punch Man season 3, yep. Fall Kaiju number 8, I don't think so. Well, when would a season 2 be airing? Okay, I can't really see any season 2s that might sway the fan vote this late. So maybe we'll actually get a legitimate fan vote here that isn't heavily swayed. Maybe. But in all likelihood, One Punch Man season 3 might win a lot. That's how it is. if the fan vote stays 70-30, that's how it is.
Expectations out of the water. That's what I will say. So be ready to see more soul leveling victories in the next Anime Awards.
No.
Take that as you will.
Probably not going to happen.
One shocker about this is just how snubbed Frieren got as well, especially when anyone that's in the anime spaces knows just how popular it got. It's one of those series that will hold the test of time and be talked about probably 10 years from now or even longer because of just how thought-provoking and philosophical it is.
Notice how when solo leveling isn't one of the nominees that Frieren won, it's a popularity contest. It isn't Corpo. If it was, then solo leveling would be insert nomination here for solo leveling. Solo leveling wins, easy clap. How it is.
Actually is. And I feel like when you compare that to something like solo leveling is one of those series in 5 to 6 years from now.
And when we go into situations where like Orb isn't nominated, for example, I have a feeling that's because of just many critics probably just didn't watch it at the time because it's a fresh new series and you probably just they didn't come across it and were busy watching other shows that were likely to be nominated or likely to be accounted for in this year's voting. So when it comes to like Orb being snubbed, I think that's probably the reason. I think they had a lot of time to watch Pluto and that's why Pluto got a few nominations, but when it comes to Orb, yeah, that's kind of the critics' fault. I'm not gonna say that that's a fan's fault because there's no real reason to blame the fans on that one.
We forgot. People are gonna think back on.
And also, it's a niche show; it wouldn't win anything anyway.
It's that cool action show, and that's about it. But Frieren is one of those series that will be dived into and analyzed and only get better with time, the passage of time. So it's crazy just to see a series like that lose with just how popular it was. But once again, this just goes into how
recency bias
become, and if it's something that
that's
has
why
flashy animation and beautiful.
Any in touch anime fan would probably vote for something other than solo leveling and would not have recency bias like sway them. But the thing is, people who are watching Crunchyroll probably just goes on to Crunchyroll, sees that the votes are happening, votes for Anime of the Year, and maybe goes further than that, but most people will just click off immediately after that. That's how it is, because they're currently watching. They went to Crunchyroll to watch Solo Leveling Season 2. They went to the Anime Awards because it was a pop-up as they were watching Season 2 of Solo Leveling, and they were like, oh man, I'm so hyped from Solo Leveling. Let me vote Solo Leveling for Anime of the Year. And that's probably why you'd have a majority of fans vote for Solo Leveling. That's probably how it went. That's probably how it went. So yeah, I disagree with Chibi heavily. I disagree with Chibi reviews heavily. I do not agree with this whole freaking Corpo shilling. Corpo is Sony's the reason why this whole thing happened. I don't agree with that. I'm interested to see what y'all think. Comment below and let me see your take on this. If you think it is really a conspiracy with Sony rigging this whole thing, then sure. I've made memes on this before about Sony shilling this whole thing, but honestly, when I learned that it's a 70-30 split, it's very obvious why Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan win almost all the nominations in certain years. So yeah, I take it's just a meme. It's fun to make fun of. It's for Sony being the monopoly that it is in the anime community. It's fun to make fun of that, but like it's not really the reason why. It's much easier to blame this on the fan vote. And it's way more plausible with what's out there and what information we know. It's very plausible that that's the reason. So yeah, disagree. Comment below if you disagree with me. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll see you guys later.